Hey guys, it's Peyton, and today we have reached a very exciting point in all of our lives, I hope. We're like a week away from the release of Sunrise on the Reaping, the 5th book in the Hunger Games series. We never thought we were even going to be able to say that there was going to be a 4th book rather than a 5th book. So it's absolutely insane. If you've never been on my channel before, I love the Hunger Games. It's my favorite thing ever, favorite series ever, favorite books ever, favorite author ever, like everything about it. Obsessed. I tabbed the shit out of these books. I've read them many times. I am currently in a book club rereading them with my 2 best friends and just having the time of my life. So while I've been preparing and rereading all of the material, I have some theories, as I'm sure some of y'all also have theories while reading. And you know, not that I think everything, every spark of an idea that I have could actually happen. There's just thoughts, you know, maybe we'll see this, maybe we'll see that. And also the Hunger Games book Twitter has like sent out a couple weird pictures of symbols that are supposed to be clues. So I wanted to go over those and just really discuss with each other like what's going on here. Comment down below what you think of these theories and what are your theories, because there's just so much that could happen. 400-page book and our lives are about to be changed forever. So my first theory is that Haymitch is friends with Katniss's dad. Haymitch and Katniss's dad both from the seam. They're around the same age from what we could probably guess, because you know Katniss's mother and Haymitch grew up around the same age. So knowing this, and you know District 12 is not that big of a place, like it's just extremely hard for me to believe that Haymitch is not, 1, aware of Katniss's dad, but 2, friendly with Katniss's dad. Like they live in the poorest part of District 12. They have to know each other. Some people are gonna call it fan service, but honestly this is inevitable that all of these people know each other. We might learn Katniss's mother's name finally and Katniss's dad's name finally, and I think their names are going to be important. This is not a theory that's unique to me. I think a lot of people have been wondering this for quite some time, but a lot of people think that Katniss's dad is a part of the Covey, which we learned about in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. If you need a refresher, the Covey are people, they're like a traveling circus group of people that ended up getting stuck in District 12. They didn't really belong to any district, but you know, when the war really happened, they were forced to stay in District 12, and that's where they were a part of. They're musical performance people, and you can distinctly know them because they have this double name situation. So Lucy Gray, Maud Ivory, Billy Taupe, like they all have a color in the second part of their name. It's an identifying factor to them, and you know, we don't know Katniss's father's name. So, and we know he was a singer. He would make the Mockingjays stop to listen, and they would always carry his tunes, and that's something that he passed down to Katniss herself. You may wonder, well, Katniss doesn't have the name thing. That is true, but it is a thing in the Covey people, the Katniss root. They would eat the Katniss root. Lucy Gray mentions this. Maybe that's something that ended up happening, but I want to argue that Primrose Everdeen, while it is a one name, Rose is a color. Like, I don't know, I'm really reaching here, but I'm just saying there is still a possibility for this to be true, in my opinion. Something that we know about Sunrise on the Reaping from some of the snippets that we have gotten and the description, we know that Haymitch's girlfriend is named Lenore Dove. Dove is also a color. So we have to think Lenore Dove is probably a part of the Covey. So this is interesting because, you know, if Lenore Dove is a part of the Covey and potentially Katniss's dad, maybe too, like all these people know each other. And we do know that in Haymitch's story, 2 weeks after his games, his girlfriend and his mother and his brother were murdered. So this is gonna lead into more of my thoughts, but seeing as these people all know each other and all get brutally murdered after someone, you know, kind of is promised like freedom and happiness and riches for the rest of their life after winning the games, I think this could very much so bring about anger throughout the district, and maybe the little bit of a rebellion maybe beginning, the spark of one. When I was rereading Catching Fire recently, I took note of a scene between Haymitch and Katniss's mother. This was during the moment when Gale just got whipped and they brought him back to be healed by Katniss's mother. She's the healer in the town, and Katniss is like really concerned, obviously, and Haymitch is trying to calm her down by saying, don't worry, your mother used to have to do this a lot back in the day. We always brought people who got got whipped to her. He didn't say exactly like that, but he literally says that she has taken care of many people who've gotten whipped in the past. That just makes you think that one, Haymitch and Katniss's mother have a history. We do know Katniss's mother was very friendly with Maislie Donner, who is the female tribute that goes with Haymitch. Well, one of the female tributes that go with Haymitch, because if you don't remember, twice the number of tributes were reaped during Haymitch's games. I just think Katniss's mother and Haymitch definitely have a history, and this leads me to think potentially there might be a scene in Sunrise on the Reaping where Haymitch himself receives a whipping. I have no evidence to this other than I just feel like she leaves breadcrumbs, and she's done this like since the beginning of time, even with the ballad. Like there's just interesting things that connect. So this is just something I'm gonna throw out there, and I may be wrong or I may not be. Clearly she has healed a lot of people that got whipped, so I definitely think that's going to be an element in Sunrise on the Reaping. I think she is going to be shown helping with this because, you know, her parents ran the apothecary. She was always a healer. She's well versed in those things. I'm intrigued. I just can't wait to learn more about their dynamic because I really was sensing in Catching Fire specifically that there's more to their relationship. Like we get so little of Katniss's mother, but she speaks up and talks about how she knew Maislie Donner and that was her friend who ended up getting reaped in the last quarter quell. She clearly is deeply disturbed by this, you know, who wouldn't be? And we know that Maislie Donner was Haymitch's ally. I just feel like after the games, they may have connected in some way. And a big thing that I feel about Sunrise on the Reaping is since we do get an understanding from Katniss's point of view watching the games, that was Haymitch's, the recordings, she got to watch those. We got her perspective. I do think we're gonna get Haymitch's perspective within the games and see what was going on and see what was worked by Snow and the game makers, what was changed to make the perception of his games a little bit better on their end. I think there will be changes, but I think a lot of Sunrise on the Reaping is going to be more so the aftermath of the quarter quell. Maybe it's because something I want, like I feel like we don't know about that. Like that's the thing that's always been a question is like how did the Haymitch that we're seeing with Happy Birthday Haymitch with the first snippet that we got, how is that the Haymitch that we see drunken and like just like falling apart throughout this series? But you know, he still has a rebel self to him, and you know, they took away everyone he loved, so he's been alone for a million years and it's depressing. Another theory that I have has to do with Tigris. Tigris is a really interesting character that was originally introduced in Mockingjay. We see her very briefly in Mockingjay as a very battered up plastic surgery looking tiger who owned a boutique that was really close to Snow's mansion. And she ended up housing Katniss and a couple of the other rebels during a time of need right before she was gonna go bust into the Capitol and hopefully kill Snow. We didn't know much about her for all these years, and then, you know, when the ballad came out, it was extremely interesting because we found out Tigris is actually the cousin of President Snow, which is very interesting knowing that she was a very famous stylist for many years. Katniss herself remembers her being a part of the Hunger Games as a very well-known stylist, and she thinks to herself, what happened to her? Like, one, she looks kind of crazy and like is looking so crazy that even in the Capitol's eyes she would be ugly. So she's like, dang, like she's battered and thrown to the side. Like, why did the games discard her in this way? And what happened to Tigris to make her hate President Snow so much is that when Katniss says she's going to go kill him, she smiles. It has made her character so interesting because of what we got in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, where she really genuinely loves Snow and Coriolanus. Coriolanus, sorry. She really does love Corio, as she calls him. It's very depressing because they were so close that they were pretty much siblings, you know, like they were cousins, but they were orphaned and with their grandma. That was the only people they had, and they went through some pretty hard times trying to get money together, so they were extremely close, and for her to end up to be the Tigris that we knew, chilling. Crazy. We know that she ends up starting to see the darkness in him at the end of this book, but we don't fully have that development. There's a missing piece in this chapter, and that's why I'm going to suggest that Tigris is going to be one of the stylists. If not Haymitch's stylist, I really don't feel like she would be Haymitch's stylist, because if she really is such a well-perceived stylist that has high prestige, and District 12 is looked down upon so much and nobody has won since Lucy Gray, so it's been like 40 years. I just don't think she would would be the District 12 stylist unless she was already in bad with Snow and she was getting discarded. But the interesting point to make is Katniss remembers Tigris. I believe the earliest Hunger Games that Katniss remembers viewing herself before her mind was really cloudy with what happened to her father and she just doesn't remember a lot. I believe it is Finnick Odair's Hunger Games that Katniss remembers. So I think Tigris could have been the stylist for District 4. And you know, it could have been anybody in that games, but I just feel like maybe Tigris was Finnick's stylist. I'm not the first person who has said this either. Think it's an interesting thought. Probably not even going to be something that's touched on. I just was mainly trying to point out that I think we're going to get a little bit more of what could have potentially pushed her over the edge. And some people have theorized that maybe if she was Finnick's stylist, someone who ended up falling into prostitution because of Snow's disgustingness, a lot of people have noted that Tigris seemed like she could have gone into prostitution herself because they had no money, and this was something that Snow frowned upon, and maybe this was something that happened to her, and like maybe that's something those two characters potentially could have connected on. There's so many things. This might be reaching so far, but I mean, I'll be really disappointed if we don't hear a little bit more about where Tigris is, what's her current story. Another theory, I mean, this is not a crazy theory, I just like have a feeling that this is going to be a thing that happens. One of my favorite things about the series is when President Snow and Katniss actually sit down and talk to each other. Those are some of the most compelling scenes. Like, those are terrifying because I mean, he's so disgusting and horrifying and represents like the epitome of evil, and she's just sitting there talking to him and he is threatening everyone she loves and herself. And I very much feel like we're gonna have scenes between Haymitch and Snow, if not just a single scene where Snow is threatening Haymitch himself, you know, and he's going to call for his family and his girlfriend to get killed after what happens in Haymitch's games. And from our understanding, Haymitch is the first one to really do something crazy that the Capitol didn't really like since what happened in the 10th Hunger Games with Lucy Gray. It makes you think that for something to go wrong like that, like Snow, after having so much power for 40 years, rising to the top, he's not going to appreciate this, and he's especially not going to appreciate it when it's a District 12 tribute is the one that caused the trouble. And, you know, it might make him crack back even harder on Haymitch because he's had experience in District 12 and he cannot stand Mockingjays. And we do know Mace Donner has the Mockingjay pen. She is the original owner of the Mockingjay pen. I'm just so very curious to see them interact with each other, to see President Snow at age like 50-ish, and where's he at in his rise to power, because we do know in the ballad, like, he has his first poisoning. We allude to his rise to power, but we don't fully see it. This is very much the origin story, but we don't fully see it. So it just feels like also a missing piece in the puzzle to see where he is in the middle of all this. So, can't wait. I have another hope and dream that we're going to get a little bit more information about, at least, we're gonna call it this, the first winner of District 12. She is briefly mentioned in the first Hunger Games book. I think it was the first Hunger Games book. It was either that or Catching Fire. It's mentioned before that Haymitch is not the first winner ever of District 12, that there was one woman before that. Susan Collins did confirm that that is Lucy Gray that she was talking about. I was confused for a little bit there because Lucy Gray is lost to time. Like, people don't remember her. So I thought maybe that this was a whole different other woman, potentially. But she confirmed it is the same person. So to know that in Katniss's age and era, she remembered that there was a different winner, it makes me really think that Haymitch might have a little bit more information than even Katniss herself had. Maybe he knows a little bit of an update for us on Lucy Gray, because no one really knows what truly happened to her. Like, is she dead? Did she get away successfully? She's a mystery. And while I don't really want that mystery to be foiled and have it ruined, I kind of hope he just has a little bit more of an awareness, possibly, or just something, especially with the Covey, knowing that the songs passed down, and you know, Katniss's dad knew the Hanging Tree song coming from the Covey, coming from Lucy Gray. It makes me think, because Haymitch himself clearly knew people from the Covey, I just think he will have more information, especially because Katniss didn't even really have information about Haymitch's games, and this one was a million years ago. So I just feel like he might have some more history behind it that he's at least aware of. And I'm just really interested because Lucy Gray is supposed to be like gone, disappeared, like we don't know what happened to her. What is this mentor situation going to be like for him? Is there literally just nobody, or if it's just a stand-in capital person like Effie? I have no idea. So I'm very interested to see what she does with that. Kind of going into what I was saying earlier, another theory of mine with how I think most of the book, or a huge chunk of it, is going to be separated in the aftermath. I think, and maybe I hope, we are going to see maybe Haymitch's first time being a mentor, or maybe just the book ends when he has to do this for the first time, or just something about it, because we know that he goes on to do it for 24 years. I can't do math. He was 50, 74 Hunger Games. Yeah. He had to do this for 24 years. So that's a lot of tributes, and all of them died other than Katniss and Peeta. So that is like 48 people. Yeah. I can do math, guys. 48 kids died, and that is like a very horrific thing for him to have to go through and deal with every single year alone. He has no one he loves or cares about, and he just keeps having to try to help these kids survive. And clearly when we meet him during Katniss's time, he has given up hope a long time ago, and he's very much distanced from these tributes and doesn't want to get attached to them because they always end up dying. Clearly he makes a switch in that book and realizes that there might actually be some potential here, and we're going to hopefully survive this one. This could definitely show the alcoholism beginning. I mean, how do you cope with that? And we see him in Mockingjay, in all seriousness, as Katniss, like, does she need to be sedated? Like, it's just so hard for him to fully feel all of these feelings. We know that he doesn't really sleep at night. That's another interesting thing. Like, there has to be something in this book that gives him fear with the darkness. Like, I don't know. I feel like there has to be something horrible that happens to him in the arena at night, because, or it's just truly just the nightmares. Like, he just can't face them. But he sleeps at odd times is what she always mentioned and noticed about Haymitch. And it just makes me really wonder, like, where does this fear of the dark truly fully come in? Kind of with what I was mentioning earlier, I really think that there is a potential that what Haymitch did with the axe and the force field, and how it seemed to make the Capitol very angry, once the backlash fully happens and Haymitch's family and girlfriend are murdered, I really think District 12 is going to go through a period of somewhat of riots, and they're angry. Like, that's their people. You know, the deal has always been like, you win, like, that's it. You don't get punished further. I really do think that's going to end up being a huge backlash, and there's going to be, just like in Catching Fire, when people were angry, they're gonna start upping the security, upping the peacekeepers, getting nastier, public whippings. I think those things are going to happen, and I think Katniss's mother is going to have to rise to the occasion and help a lot of people, because a lot of people are going to be injured. I can't imagine like this going peacefully. What happens to Haymitch in his games, how it's double the people, and then having them punish him afterwards. Like, I just can't imagine District 12 just fully taking that. And maybe the rest of the districts, maybe there was a little bit of something as well. Like, we never really heard about that. It wouldn't be fully surprising. Another character that I'm very interested to know more about is Plutarch Heavensbee. I'm not really sure how old he is. He always came off like younger than President Snow, but he's still on the older side of it. So I don't know if he is old enough to have been a game maker yet by this book. He might simply not be, but we do know Heavensbee from the ballad is a very prestigious family, just like the Snow family. So I really think we'll at least hear from a Heavensbee, and they might be one of the nasty game makers. This also might not happen at all. We might not hear anything about them because, I mean, we heard about them in this for a reason. We were on Snow's end of it, and we were inside the mind of the people of the Capitol. Potential that there's an inkling about Plutarch, but I don't know. Does anyone know how old he is? I don't know if it was ever really mentioned. I think I'm just genuinely so interested in his character. Like, how exactly did he come from such a prestigious family who got everything they ever wanted, and then he ended up being one of the huge pieces of the rebellion and the reason that Snow fell? What happened to him? You know, like, he didn't have to do all of that, and that took a lot of guts, and while I have a lot of issues with him, like I think he could be extremely tone deaf and just strange to some of the characters at times. If he didn't exist, I don't think any of that stuff would have been able to fully happen. He had so much intel, and he was able to be on the inside as the head game maker to get everything done and catching fire. So like he was such an integral part of the rebellion, and I'm just so curious like where this came from. Like honestly, and I'm probably still not going to get the answers, but I just would love to. So those are all my general theories, but I do want to bring mention to the little pictures with symbols that they sent out on Twitter. The first one that we got was this one with a butterfly and a ladybug. No freaking idea what that's about. I will say there was poisonous butterflies in Haymitch's arena. If that's what it's referencing, I don't know. Like, the ladybug is a symbol of luck usually. Who freaking knows what this one means? I have a lot more thoughts on the next one here with the Mockingjay pin and the pieces of candy. Maceley Donner is the original owner of the Mockingjay pin, and she also, her parents owned the sweet shop. That seemed to connect to a legitimate character, so it made me look back at the butterfly and the ladybug and made me think, like, is this supposed to be representing a character? Not sure, because then we got the third one and it's a paintbrush and then a sign with the symbol of the book. And I saw someone saying like this was painting like propaganda on Panem or whatever, which I can see that, but that doesn't link to a specific character like I was building this theory from. So I'm not sure. If you have thoughts on what the heck these things mean, let me know. Like, every symbol tells a story is what they're saying here. And while we clearly seem to know the second one, I'm just very curious about this ladybug, because there's like some weird edition of Sunrise on the Reaping out there that has painted edges, and there is ladybugs on like some of the trees on the painted edges. So it seems to be like a legitimate thing that appears. So like, what does it mean? I have no idea. That's all I'm gonna say for now. I feel like this was a lot of thoughts. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think, and if you have any crazy theories of your own, because you know, if we got anything right, we got the date on this video, we're cool. Everyone's gonna know that we're just that smart. And if everything's wrong, I don't want to talk about it. Delete the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you on the other side when we get this book. It's gonna be crazy.